Welcome to the Big Fat Real Estate Checks podcast with Marco Kozlowski, where we help investors like you get the knowledge and skills you need to replace your JOB with passive cash flow for life.
Hey, Marco here. I really wanted to share with you our earlier podcasts that we created. Now, our mics were not the best, but the content was really strong, and I know you will learn a lot. We had an absolute blast recording this, and I know you're absolutely going to love it as much as we loved recording it. This extremely content-rich information will not only give you the edge in your real estate investing business, but in everyday life. Enjoy. Welcome back to yet another episode where we're going to discuss good debt versus bad debt. Things that you should be thinking about. Some debt is good, some debt not so good. And I know there are many schools of thought where all debt is bad, and there are other schools of thought that are all debt is good. I think there's a balance between both. I think some debt is extremely good and some debt is actually terrible. So let's get into that and the nuances between good debt and bad debt and take it from there. So Gabe, you want to start on this one?
Sure. Debt in general is a topic that you kind of learn from the household and how the people around you have been dealing with debt. So a lot of this stuff over here today may be controversial to you, or it may be something that you already knew. I don't know if we want to take examples of good debt and bad debt. We start off with that.
Yeah. But let's talk about credit card debt.
Credit card debt. Well, it could be either or. It could be good debt or it could be bad debt. Let's give an example of each. So if you decide that you want to go on vacation and that you don't have the funds to go on vacation, but you use your credit card to pay for it, that's considered bad debt. And the reason that's considered bad debt is because, sure, you're going to have some internal happiness on vacation. You'll have your 7 days of sunshine. But at the end of the day, you still have to pay for that debt when you get back. And it's not going to be paid by your vacation. Unless you're a blogger and all that stuff. But for the most part, let's assume you're not. It's not going to pay for itself.
Meaning that if that vacation makes you money or that that trip makes you money, then it's bad debt. So any debt that doesn't make you money is going to be considered bad debt.
Yeah, and that's the concept of an asset and a liability to start with.
Exactly.
But if you decide that you want to buy a property and you need a quick $5,000 to put as that down to start off with the property, and that property does cash flow at the end of each month, and it's going to put $1,000 a month in your pocket for the rest of your life, then that could be considered good debt, because at the end of the day, it's really an investment and you're borrowing the money, but you're going to be able to pay it back with the cash flow.
Right. So you're borrowing the money maybe at, let's say, the highest amount, which would be around 25%.
Yeah.
So if you're paying at 25% interest, which sounds ridiculous, that's almost loan sharking, which means your interest payment on $5,000 would be around $1,250
a year.
But if you're making $1,000 a month on that investment, you're actually making $12,000 on an interest payment of $1,250. You're making 10 times more, approximately. You're making 10 times more than the interest payment itself.
And actually, at the end of the year, you could pay it off. You could pay off the capital.
Yeah, exactly.
If you wanted to.
You could put $1,000 a month towards your credit card, and then you have that cash flow forever. Yeah. So $5,000 advance on your credit card is at the highest interest rate, but if you're making more than 24% interest, it makes sense.
So the logic here is good debt is used to generate more income, and bad debt is used to generate nothing or more expenses. Some people buy or get a loan to get a car, or get a loan to buy themselves a boat because they just want to show off, or whatever the case may be. But a boat or a car will require more expenses like maintenance, like insurance, gas, whatever else you can think of that. But it's never going to generate you income.
Actually, I just want to touch upon the credit card.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that one up, because credit card, actually, I've been using that as a profit generating center.
Yeah.
So now I don't know about everyone, but I've been getting things in the mail saying these balance transfers, and now they're actually even calling. So I don't know if that's the new thing now, where credit cards are calling and say, would you like to do a balance transfer with a higher credit card interest rate to theirs? And I don't know if you tuned into one of the episodes we had a little exercise or a little challenge where you would phone your credit card company and see if you can get a lower rate and an increase in your limit. So I've done that exercise years ago. I have a few cards that have quite a large limit to it. And like Gabe said, you're not going to go spend that and go to Vegas or go on a cruise because
Some
it's not giving
do.
you money. Some do, that's fine. But I use that to my advantage, and I've done it several times actually this year, where basically they're doing transfers at at 1% and not pay interest for 10 to 12 months. So what I did is just recently is I used one of my MBNA cards. It's a 7% interest rate. So I got it down from 19.99 or 25% down to 7% using that exercise. And I got it increased to about 35, 40,000, actually 55, my bad, 55,000 on that card. So they were offering a balance transfer. So I did the balance transfer, and it doesn't have to be, and this is what I thought, it doesn't have to be a balance transfer to other credit cards. They can just issue you a check and deposit it directly into your bank account. So, because I didn't have 55,000 in debt on my credit cards. So I asked them, can we issue a check? And they go, absolutely. What's your bank account? And they'll just give you a check and they'll
Basically a cash advance at a lower rate.
It's a cash advance.
At 1%.
At 1%. That's
for a whole
rate.
year.
That's the
It's
whole
free
transfer.
money. Right.
So I did that, and I took I go, how much can I take? And they go, the whole balance. And I go, well, okay.
I'll take it.
Give me the 55,000. So I paid 1%. So I still paid 1% on that. They deposit to my bank account. Usually it was the next day, 2-3 days, because they did direct deposit. They don't give you checks. Actually, they will give you checks if you want to use it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So they'll mail you the check. So I said, no, just put it in my bank account. Here's my routing number.
So
Here's my account number.
$550 to have access to
55,000.
55,000.
Sitting in your account to be able to go to Vegas and bet it all on black, and you went on a vacation.
I did double, yeah. No,
Yeah, so you bought a 1 million inch TV set so you could watch the hockey game, and you buy a year's supply of
wife beaters.
Of cannolis.
Of cannolis. No, I didn't quite do that. And I, as much as tempting it was, no, I didn't want to buy a TV that the whole city can watch.
Yes.
I don't want people knowing what I'm watching.
Obviously.
But yes. But taking that $55,000, paying $550, what I did, so not only I got it for 1%, I took that money and I lent that money. So it was my money. Actually, it wasn't mine. It was that was mine. It wasn't even my wife's not in on
It's personal money.
It's my money. So
Well, it's the bank's money.
it's the bank's money, so it's Francesco. So, but now it's my money. They
Yes,
gave it to me.
they did.
They borrowed it to me.
They lent
So-
it to you.
So I took that money and I gave one of my U.S. legal business the money as a loan for a rehab project. So instead of raising the money or looking for private, I said I'll give it to myself, to my own legal business. And I was generous with myself. I charged myself 12%.
12.
12.
Yeah.
That's generous, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
It's better than 29 or 25 with the banks are charging.
Fine.
I charged
100%.
myself
Nothing wrong with that.
You gave a loan to one of your businesses for 12%.
for 12%.
Or on $50,000, that would be around $6,000 a year in interest.
Yeah. So I got it for one. So I spent the $550 gladly, and you just got to keep track of when it's due after the 12 months or after the 10 months. So I got it for one, paid $550, and I'm charging myself
12%.
12% on the
$6.
50,000 or the 55,000. So at the end of the year, my business will pay that back, which has the money. It's an expense for the business, so I'm saving taxes on that. It's an income producer for myself. The bank's happy, I guess, too, because they got their 1%.
Yep.
They're banking on, or the credit card was, I guess, banking on that you don't pay it off in full after the 10 months or 12 months. They want you to have some of that balance so it can carry over, so they can charge you. In my case, it would only be the 7. Yeah.
But I want to add one more thing to that. Your business is paying a 12% return to yourself, which is fine. But what is it making on that 12%?
Okay,
So let's discuss that, because 12% interest seems quite high. If you're just listening to us for the first time, you're like, 12%, who the hell pays 12% interest on anything? What's the return on that borrowed money at the end of the day?
Well, the return on that is you're renting those units out for the $700 a pop. So like 10 units, that's $700 a pop. So that's $7,000
A month.
Yeah, a month. So
Right.
out of
So it costs you $50,000 to be able to take an existing structure that you have and generate $7,000 a month.
Yep,
So, and your interest payment is only $500 a month.
correct.
So your borrowing
No,
money,
hold on a sec. Sorry.
It is $6,000 a year.
That's right. Sorry. At the end, yes.
$500 a month, $6,000 a year.
Yes.
So would you pay $500 a month to be able to generate $7,000 a month? The answer is obvious. So MBNA makes money by lending you the money.
Yep.
You make money by lending the money to
Your entity.
My entity.
Your entity borrows the money. So all these are good debts.
So
right?
you can
It's
make money on the rent.
So everybody is making money on borrowed money, which is exactly how banks make money, actually.
Yeah.
If you want a loan, you're not borrowing the bank's money. They're going to the Fed, borrowing the money at a different interest rate, and they're making the spread. And they're making most of their money on the front end because loans are generally amortized where most of the interest is on the front end. So after the first trimester of
Yeah.
the loan, they're already paid back, really. They've made all their money.
Interestingly, you've just basically become your own private lender because if
Your own bank.
Yeah, your own bank. Your own
I'm
private
using
lender.
other people's money, but they're happy with it. We talked about this on private lending.
Yes.
They're happy. They want to place their money. So the MBNA is in the business of
Lending
their
money.
credit card, lending money. So
Correct.
they opt to give it to me for 1%. I took that, and I took that bad debt. People scream, "Oh, 55,000 on your credit." Yeah.
But what makes it good debt is that at the end of the road, that money is being used to generate more income than it's costing to borrow it.
A lot more income.
And
So
that's really the key. But even if it only made $100 more than your interest payment, at the end of the day, you're making money on money that's not yours, and that can be considered good debt.
Well, if you look at the numbers, you borrowed $55,000 to make $7,000 a month. Let's call that the gross number. You have an existing structure, so let's say that you actually keep $4,000 out of that $3,000.
Yeah.
That's about $48,000 a year, right? You're borrowing $55,000 to make $48,000 a year.
So $6,000 in interest.
Yeah.
Take that off. It's $42,000 net a year
There you go.
of the interest.
Yeah, it's
But like I said, even if it was only $12,000 that you
It's
net,
still
it's
phenomenal.
still great, and that's what turns it into good debt.
Yeah.
Now, if he can take that 55,000 and do something else with it, he can do, let's say, home renovations with it to his own house. And believe it or not, that's considered bad debt because at the end of the day, I don't know about your house, but mine only generates expense. I only get bills in the mail with my address on it. I never get a check with my address on it.
unless you Airbnb your house or parts of it,
Right.
in which case you're sacrificing privacy, and then your house becomes an income generator.
Correct.
But
Part of
this
your
house,
house.
this house actually bought me a hotel. So when I eventually paid off my house, I refinanced it, pulled out cash, and I used that cash to buy a hotel. And that the money that I'm paying in interest to the bank is peanuts compared to what the hotel is generating. So this house has created income for me buying a hotel.
Yeah.
And so now I'm taking the equity out of my property to buy other assets. So my house is now an income generator. So my hotels are paying off that loan.
And that's how I initially started. I started doing the credit cards now because they're phony. They wanted to give me money. But I initially started with the equity in my own matrimonial home. I had equity in there. The city people say I have equity in my property. I have equity, but I've used it. I went to the bank and said, "Can you give me a line?" And they said, "Absolutely." They know what the house is worth. They give me a line of credit, and I did the exact same thing. I got it at a very attractive rate because it was a secured line of credit
That's
because
right.
they put on the house. It was 3%, 3.5. And I did the exact same thing. I lent it personally to my business. And I even secured myself on some properties where I placed a mortgage for that. So in case my business went kaput or something
You have to
happened or someone
protect it with
sued
the
or whatever,
Yeah.
then I can still take that money out. So I started with the line of credits with the equity, but now credit cards are willing to do these 1% transfers.
It's free money.
It's free money.
It's
and,
free money.
Why not? Yeah.
So good debt
Versus bad debt.
is things that make you money. If your house is paid for, you have no debt there, which is great, but perhaps you could turn the debt equity into your property into something that actually makes you money.
Because it's dead money for now.
It is dead money. And your house is going up the same amount or in value, whether it has debt on it or not. And if let's say you have $500,000 tied up in your home in equity, could you take that $500,000 and buy a asset at a huge discount, and that makes you, $100,000 a year? Most likely you could. So your house could be generating $100,000 a year for you by pulling out the equity. Now, again, I don't recommend you do this without really knowing what kind of asset that you want to buy. The last thing I would want you to do is buy something that doesn't make you money and you lose $500,000 and now you have $500,000 in debt that you have to pay back. That's bad debt suddenly because you made a bad buying decision. So it's important to get educated, to know what to buy, to know what you're looking for, to know the cash flow is going to be coming in. and build in contingencies where, if it doesn't make 100 and it still makes you 60, it's still a good time.
That's right.
Where, if everything has to go right in order for me to make $10,000 a year on a $500,000 investment,
Stay away.
bad idea, because it's a high risk versus low reward. That's why I really recommend getting educated on what to buy, how to buy it, and to protect yourself with the right asset protection, the right team members, the right management companies, the right everything, to make sure that you're really hedging your bets and have a much higher chance of making a shit ton of money versus 50-50 on what could happen, which is gambling or speculating.
And for those of you who are just addicted to buying stuff that's considered bad debt, then there's you can still do that with good debt, ultimately, by skipping a step or adding a step. So use your debt, and instead of buying your whatever it is that you want to buy that's considered bad debt, buy an asset that produces income and use that income to buy what it is that you want. Because then at least the debt is going to be tied to an asset that's producing income, and that's what makes it good debt.
A friend of mine loves playing the stock market, and he loses
All
the time. But he loves it. He absolutely loves it. So he buys property to make cash flow, to put into stock that he loses, and then he eventually buys another property because he doesn't have to use his own money, because he does it my way. And then and just keeps playing the stock market with all his profits, and he loves it. So he just wants to buy more property so he can lose money on the stock market. That's just his thing.
To each their own.
And that's his choice. It's his money. He does whatever the hell he wants with it. That's why it's his cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
But at least he has what you suggested, which
That
is
extra step.
that extra step. Exactly. And then you can buy the 1 million inch TV set, and own every
1 million in 8K resolution, 8K resolution, the 1 million with 8K resolution, that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, you're practically in the movie.
You're exactly.
It's Earth.
That's called reality. That's right. You're buying reality.
Shit looks so real.
Yeah. Oh my God. You find this shit. It's super high.
But going back to the mortgages, you said, so people are looking to get out of their mortgage. Like mortgage is a voodoo word, right? But people are trying to get out of it. We're trying to get into it. If you really think about it, the more mortgages we have, the better it is. That means we have more properties that are generating money.
Or like I'm a CPA, and accountants have this false, false outlook on what a real asset is and real debt is. So because you put your house as an asset and the mortgage against the house as a liability, they think their house is an asset, but it's not. And I used to talk to some of my friends, and they're like, just, every cent they have, they're paying down their mortgage and paying down their mortgage. I'm like, why are you doing that? He goes, well, I don't want any mortgage. I go, but your mortgage is charging you 3% interest. Like, that's the cheapest money you can find anywhere.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you use that extra cash to do something else
Invest
that generates
more income? Exactly.
More income
That can pay off your mortgage.
Correct. And I don't want a mortgage. Are you kidding me? Like, I want to die with like $1 billion in mortgages.
Absolutely.
So it's just, you have to understand debt and how to use it in order to be able to maximize. Like, none of these billionaires out there, or anybody that you look up to that has money, none of them are debt free. In fact, all of them have tons of debt. It's just that it's tons of good debt. Yeah. None of them have bad debt. Nobody will buy a car with a loan. They'll buy it with an asset that's generating income.
Yeah, they'll pay cash for it using something that made them that money.
Correct.
They wouldn't. It's not. It's money from profits. It's not money to buy something else. There are two different columns in the
in their balance sheet.
In their balance sheet, yeah, or in yours, in your future balance sheet as well.
So it's the same thing when people put money in their bank because they think they have to save, but they're actually losing money.
Yes.
Right. So
money in the bank is actually bad. That's a bad asset.
Yes, yeah. It's a bad asset. That's right.
It's a bad asset. Putting money in the bank is a bad asset, and you might be thinking, Marco, you're retarded. No, I'm not.
At least not for this reason.
Yeah. So money is worth less tomorrow, right? Because there's inflation. So my parents, told me to put money in the bank, money in the bank, money in the bank. But if I have a lot of money in the bank, it's not making me money. No. I'd rather put money into an asset that will generate more money.
That's right.
Wealthy people understand that the way to make money is you take cash, you put that into an asset. That asset then turns into more cash. You take that cash and you buy another asset. I take some money, I leverage that money into a property. That property spins off cash flow and goes up in value. I take that money, which has no value other than what I can do with it to turn it into an asset. Money itself has no value. If I put you into a closet and with $1 billion in it and small bills that you can roll around in and eat and hump and lick and do whatever you want with it, you're going to starve to death. There's nothing, it's what you can do with the money. It's the assets that you can acquire with the money that are important. So it's not really the money that you want, it's the power to get as many assets as you want that matters. So money, cash to asset, back to asset, back to cash, back to asset, back to cash is the secret to wealth. And it's making it grow every time there's a conversion. Bought a house, went up in value, sold it, have more cash. Take that cash, buy stock, goes up in value, turn that back into cash. Bought Bitcoin, went up in value, bought into cash. Bought Bitcoin, lost everything, turned that into cash. But here's the thing is, if you bought Bitcoin and never sold, just as an example, it's you don't want to sell. You want to, when it goes down, you want to literally buy more because, or unless, this is not obviously all the time, but when it goes down, it's the right time to buy.
That's right.
Not necessarily with Bitcoin, but, with people usually exit when things go down. You still own the asset. So selling it, unless you're going to lose everything, doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, selling it materializes the loss.
You're crystallizing the loss.
But you still own the asset. So in 2008, when people were just dumping their homes and walking away from them, those properties are worth a lot. It recovered.
Yeah.
So had you not sold, you would have been better off than selling.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So you basically what you just described, you're compounding your good debt.
Yeah.
You're compounding it. So
anything that's cash flowing.
Exactly. You want to remove the bad debt, anything that doesn't make you money, get rid of that as quickly as possible with good debt.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I think we pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep. If you have any other things that you want to add to that, send us an email.
If you're not sure what you're looking at as a good debt or bad debt, send that over.
Send it over, Marco@MarcoKozlowski.com, and we'll help you out.
If you like this episode of Big Fat Real Estate Checks, then show some love by leaving a comment and a good rating. Also, as a thank you for tuning in today, we've got a special free gift. The journey to passive cash flow for a life starts by finding deals, and it's easier than you think. Simply go to getdealsbytuesday.com, enter your email address, and we'll send you a free quick start course called Deals by Tuesday. Even if it's 11 p.m. Monday night, this course will show you how to find discounted real estate deals by Tuesday. It's that fast and simple. Go to getdealsbytuesday.com and start your journey toward life-changing cash flow today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.